everyone, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. Join me in making this silk pendant design. So the silk flower design was actually a design that was created during one of the Facebook Lives that we were challenged to use Silky and Piggy beads. Gather up the materials listed first or drop down below in the link below the video here and join me in making this fun, versatile pendant. So before getting started, I wanted to show you kind of the progression from one to another. So during the Facebook Live, Anna and I kind of switched places, and I started out with the piggies and the silkies, and then she took over. I had started also with a disc duo near me and kind of went from there. As I was progressing and doing the pendant after, I changed it up and added a little bit more crystal, a little bit more shine, and decorated the outside of the beads. Additionally, we have the nice back here that it's actually quite reversible, and you can reverse it in any way. We're going to begin with our silkies and our piggy beads and our 11 seed beads. We're going to pick up and kind of hold on to the bottom of about 3.5–4 feet of 0.006 wildfire beading thread on a size 12 needle. I'm going to hold the bottom of the thread because we're just going to end up tying this into a loop. Pick up an 11 seed bead, and then we're going to pick up our first piggy bead. Piggy beads, if you're unfamiliar with them, they have offset holes. They have a hole in the center and then one off towards the side. We're going to be going through the center hole, and right now I have it that the dome is facing in, and I picked up kind of at the bottom of the bowl. We're going to add one of our 11 seed bead, and then we're going to add a silky bead so that we're going through the bottom hole when the bead kind of bump is to the top. You can see it's flat on one side to the top on the other side. After that, add another 11, and then you're going to add your next silky bead going through the center of the bowl, so they're going to end up cupping the silky bead. So you add that piggy so that it cups along it. We're going to repeat this 4 times. So there's my first one that I have on, and I'm going to add my next. So 11, piggy through the back side or through the bottom of the bowl, 11, silky through the bottom hole, 11, piggy through the middle again. Again, repeat this 4 times, doing that same pattern, and then we're going to tie the thread in a knot. You want to make sure that you have on your 11 seed bead before, and we're going to finish without the 11 seed bead after the piggy. So again, it's cupping towards the center. 1 more to go. And when you're doing this with any multi-hole beads, you want to make sure that the holes are actually open on the design. There's nothing kind of as frustrating to get to the end of the design or to realize that you don't have an actual hole that's open. After you get on all of your series here, you can see I started with an 11 seed bead. So I did not add an 11 to the end, because what I'm going to do is tie this into a loop. I want to leave just a tiny bit of thread at the end, and I'm going to tie this again into a little loop. Because it's a series of 4, it's actually going to end up being a little bit more squared than it is going to be rounded. And I tie right over left, left over right, and give a nice tight yank. From here you can see that nice kind of chocolate color of the piggies really highlights the white-red luster of the silky beads. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take a little trip around the back of the pendant. The back of the pendant is going to be the flat side, whereas the bump is going to be to the front. That being said, if you want to switch it up, you could have strung it that the back was showing first, and it would switch up to have a flatter side on the top. When we get to the back here, we are going to go around the back, adding in an 11 and our crystal and an 11 catching on to the bottom hole of that silky bead. So the silky bead again has kind of that top hole, and then we're going to do the bottom hole. And I know the rose is light, so I'll kind of hold those up when I'm adding them, but I thought that would be the perfect color to add to my kind of brighter pink scheme here. Going through then the 11 I'm going to go through the 11 go through that piggy bead, and then bring my needle out. So it's going to be a little bit tricky sometimes to kind of get your needle around the piggies. That's, I think, their biggest challenge in working with them, is that roundedness. So I have my needle out there right after the piggy, and we are going to step up. As we step up, what it's going to do, and I'm going to untwist my pliers here from my thread. See, this is why you don't want to have a crowded work area. I'm going to untwist that piggy, or I'm going to twist that piggy rather, to the back of the piece, because I want that loop as I'm working with it to kind of go to the actual back section here. So we want to get the beads kind of to the back and those piggies to come through that second hole along the back. What we're going to do is step up through that piggy. So remember, we came out that bottom there of the piggy. I'm going to step out through the other hole of the piggy. You're not going to see then the thread kind of hanging out in the middle, jumping from the inner hole to the outer hole along the piggy. As we go along the back here, we're going to add 1 11-0, and then we're going to go through the next open hole of the next piggy in line. As we come out the piggy on the back of the Silky, I want you to add an 11, one of your crystals, and then an 11. So you have crystal, 11, crystal, and then you might need to spin kind of that piggy around the next one there to find the hole because it's offset. So I'm spinning and finding the hole. Once I find the hole, sew through it. And then from there, as you're coming out between the two Silkies, you want to add an 11-0 seed bead. And again, kind of find that hole of the Silky. Sew through the next one in line. And then we get to, again, do our 11 crystal, 11 onto our needle, and we're sewing through the next piggy bead. Because we've done this in a series of 4 with our 4 Silkies, we're going to continue adding in till we get 4 of those done. Once we do this, it establishes the direction of the piggies and actually kind of holds them and locks them in place. So it's a little bit easier to get around the piece because they are kind of stationed. I'm going all around the piece here. You want to make sure that everything stays to the back side, to that flat side of your Silky beads. As I go around here, I'll add in my last set of my crystals. 11, crystal, 11. I'm going to go through that first Silky, and I'm going to step out then right after my 11-0 that I'm going through my Silky, then I'm going through my 11-0 right at a crystal. This is an added step you can do. You don't have to do. If you want to keep it kind of like that in the back, you can. I really decorated the back of the piece in case it does kind of flip there from the front to the back. So to decorate the back, what I did was go through and add 3 11-0s above all of the crystals. So this would also look really nice with 15s, but I wanted to keep it really accessible for people. So I'm going through the 11, piggy, 11, and then the next 11 as well, coming out. And as I spin around, it is going to keep kind of tightening it up, adding those 3 seed beads along the top. Now on your piece, if you have light beads like this, you may want to do white thread. I did green, so that way it makes it easier to see as I add in those 3 beads going through then, and they're going to station and sit right on top of those crystals. Again, this kind of holds it in place and anchors it, and just gives a little bit more of a design look to the back of the piece. Going around then, we have one more time to add this in. And then we're kind of finished with the back, and we're going to go towards the front of the piece. As I go through here, I am going to go through my 11, and I'm going to go through my piggy. So I'm going through 11, piggy, and out. This is going to get me set up then to go towards the front of the piece. As I go and flipped kind of towards the front of the sample piece here, you can see I'm going to go along and kind of add in more seed beads along that front to create that center drive. What I need to do to create that nice crystalled center is actually get between the 11-0 near the piggy. So what we're going to do is step down again. So we stepped up towards that back hole. Now I'm going to step down through the piggy and out through the 11-0 that's in between. This is going to take a little bit of thread there and put it on the interior of that piggy that my thread is going through, but you're really not going to see it. Push that stop bead to the back, and now we're going to go to the front and add a little kind of picot trim that we're going to attach and catch onto. To add the picot trim, I want to connect 3 11-0s to the 11-0 that's already there. So you're going to put 3 11s on your needle, and again we're going around the front, so that's going to catch on to that central hole of the piggy. We're going to go through the back through the 11. So the 11-0 that we're coming out of, we add on our 3 seed beads, and then we're circling back towards that 11-0. As we circle back towards that 11-0 then, you'll see that little picot trim kind of created. And see that little trim, how I had to kind of push it against itself a little bit. Go ahead through the Silky and the 11-0s. So I'm going through the next Piggy, through the 11-0, through the Silky. And usually your needle is going to pop out right after that Silky. Go ahead, you can go kind of and push your beads a little bit off to the side. Go then through the next 11-0 and through the next Piggy, out the 11-0, and repeat that grouping of our 4. So we already have 1 there. We're going to add 3 more 11s. And after we add those 3 11s, we're going back through the 11 our thread is coming out of, and back through the Piggy, the 11, the Silky. And generally speaking, that's where your needle is going to pop out. This is creating that nice little kind of triangle look that we're going to catch on to as we add in the central part of the pendant. Coming around then, you're going to kind of sneak your needle in there, go through the 11, the Piggy, and the 11. And we're going to do that little grouping of 3 more beads again. 3 more go through the Silky, and out. Now you can see again, I need to kind of play around with those beads a little bit to get them to cooperate. Turn your piece a little bit to the side to get through that next 11-0 and the next Silky. And this will be our final grouping. The nice thing with this pendant is you can actually stop here if you want to keep it really, really nice and open. You could also add a Rivoli. I toyed kind of back and forth with adding a Rivoli, but I decided not to. So after you're done here with this last picot trim, I'm going to remain and come out of the 11-0 that the thread was coming out of. So you can see that nice kind of squared look. And what I want to do is get my thread and needle to the point of that grouping of 3. So I'm going to take my thread and needle out the 11. I didn't go back through the Piggy because I'm finishing up. And I'm going to go through the first and second 11-0 in that grouping of 3. And you can see it's kind of expanding the thread a little bit. Go ahead and give that, as you're going around, a nice tight pull afterwards. We're going to pull these beads to the center. In between these beads to the center, we're always going to connect to that kind of top bead in our little diamond, or that second bead in that group of 3. Between those, I want you to add 3 of your crystals. So 3 of those 1.5 millimeter crystals, and then you're going to sew on to the next grouping of 11-0. And as you do that, those seed beads and the crystals will kind of fall to the center of that bead. Again, 3 crystals get added to really kind of pop that middle and make it crystallized. And then you're going to go through the next grouping of 3 beads through that central bead. That pulls that diamond of seed beads in towards the center. Continuing on, 3 get added. Go towards the center. 3 more get added. And then again, through that first bead, that first seed bead, as well as through the first 2 crystals. So I'm bringing my needle and thread out after those first 2 crystals. Give a nice tight yank to tighten up all that thread. And we're going to bring the crystals even inner one more time. So to do so, I'm coming out that second crystal, add an 11-0 seed bead, and just like we caught onto the middle seed bead, we're going to catch on to the middle crystal. So you're going to add an 11-0 and string through the middle crystal in that grouping of 3 crystals. Add an 11, pick up just the middle one, and string through just that middle crystal in that next grouping of 3. You can see how it pulls it in and makes a nice tight corner. Again, 11-0. You're going to end up with 4 11s in the middle, and we're going through that seed bead, or I'm sorry, through the crystal after adding the seed bead. There, I have 3 out of 4 done. We'll add 1 more of our 11. And then as I do that, I'm going to go through that first crystal that our thread was coming out of, as well as through the 11-0 that I put on after, and bring my thread and needle out. Kind of push that all towards the center, and you get that nice diamond design. And you can see kind of how that really takes over in the blue. And we're going to catch on to these little points that we made one more time as we do the outer edge, kind of looking like that lotus silk flower. So coming out the 11-0 seed bead here, what I want you to do is go through the next crystal, and I want you to go down through the crystal after it in its group of 3 and bring the needle out. After that, you're going to go through the next 11 and down through the 11 after that, which is going to bring you out right next to kind of that side of that piggy bead. What we're doing is just getting our needle and thread so we can get to the exterior hull of our silky bead. You're going to go down to the 11-0 that your thread is coming out of, kind of right next to that, and that last little one that's going to be connecting that center line of the piggies. Once you're out through there, we're going to get ready to connect on and create our little kind of scalloped look of our sides of our flower. When we do this, we're coming out of that central bead. You are going to add on to your thread and needle 4 11-0s and 1 crystal. So you're going to end up adding 4 11s, 1, 2, 3, 4 11s, 1 of your crystals, and then we're going to sew through that top hole of our silky bead. Those seed beads are going to kind of force themselves towards the front of the design. Once you're at the silky, go ahead and add 5 11s, and we're going to circle around through the silky, going back through that same hole, again circling our thread around, which is going to decorate the top of that silky with some 11s. There we go. Coming out then, I want you to add 1 of your crystals, and then just like we did on the other side, 4 11-0s. Going down between the 11-0 that sits between that center hole of the silkies, sew through and out. Give a nice tight pull to force those seed beads all to the top of the piggy beads. Coming out then here, we're going to repeat, adding in 4 seed beads, 1 crystal, and through the silky bead. Again, kind of push that towards the top, so that way the crystal comes to the top. Add in 5 11s, and circle around your silky bead. So this is going to continue the whole way over around the pendant. As I get to the final one, I'll show you how I'm going to add in my bail, which I'm going to use a wire guard to do so, and that'll finish up this whole nice silk flower pendant. So as we're going around the top here, I'm at my last silky, and this is where I'm going to add the actual bail or the top of my flower. To do so, add 2 11-0 seed beads onto your needle. Then you're going to add 1 of your crystals. You don't have to add the crystal, you can add kind of whatever you want, but I thought it was nice to kind of top it with the crystal. Coming down then here, I'm going to add on a wire guard or a wire protector, going up through that central first hole, and then coming down through on the other side. After coming down through the wire guard or the wire protector, also go through the crystal and pull, making sure that no thread is showing in your actual wire guard. Give a nice tight pull, making sure the thread stays there. And then afterwards, add 2 more 11-0 seed beads. So back through the silky, just like we've been doing, and out. You can go ahead and reinforce that one more time, taking your thread and needle back up through, so that way the place where there's the most tension, where it's going to be attached to a chain or to a crystal necklace, that way you have more than 1 thread going through that section. I'm going to go back up through those first 2 seed beads, back up through the crystal, through that wire guard, down through the wire guard, down through the crystal. After you reinforce, all we're going to do is add in our last set of our crystal and our 4 seed beads. And to do so, you want to make sure as you're coming out of reinforcing here, that you're going back down through the seed beads that seem like they're on the opposite side, because you want to have that consistency of going back through the silky before adding in the crystal and the seed beads. So on the other side here then, I have my crystal and my 4 seed beads that will get added. After I add the crystal and the 4 seed beads, I'm going back through that original 11-0 that my thread was coming out of and bringing the thread needle to the back. Here my pendant is nice and finished, all those seed beads sit nicely, and I now have a pretty pink version and a blue version. You can also see kind of the progression of having something in the middle versus nothing in the middle, kind of that we were working on, and how those design lives actually change and kind of come to fruition. Now all I have to do is get my thread and needle tucked in the back here, and I'm going to step down through my Piggy, go through that Piggy bead, and if you need to, you can kind of wiggle your needle, bring that needle and thread out. And I'm just going to pick a thread end somewhere, right here, even. Make a loop, going under the bridge thread, sewing through that bridge thread, and making a nice tight knot. Go then in with your wire cutters, or thread burners rather, and go ahead and burn down the edge of that thread. And I need to replace my battery in mine. Once I burn down the edge of that thread, my pendant is finished, and I have my nice silver versions here of my silk flower pendant that I can start even making a little bouquet to hang on. These also could be done as earrings. They're not that large. I can kind of show them hanging on my ears here. They're not that big as you're looking at them. And you could change up some of the materials that are in here, but you're gonna need to change up the counts. So I know a lot of questions that people ask right after we're finished is, can I use this instead of this? And could I use that instead of that? You could use some different beads. You can refer back to those Better Beader episodes to see which beads are likely to replace one another. You will need the Piggy beads for these. And the nice thing is, some of you, I think, have a couple Piggy beads sitting around that you'll be able to do this silk flower pendant. Thanks so much for joining me in making this beautiful silk flower pendant. Remember, you can get any of the materials from us at PotomacBeads.com as well as PotomacBeads.eu. Below the video, in the little description box, near that like and subscribe button, is a link to all of the materials to purchase from us online. Again, as always, if you want to, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel that gives you regular updates for things like the Better Beader episodes, new designs like this silk flower pendant, as well as access to tons and tons of different videos. Thank you so much for watching, and enjoy making your own silk flower necklace.